Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurshada binti Fazli from AS12001B. So for our video presentation assessment, we are going to present about nervous tissue. The function of nervous tissue is it's responsible for coordinating and controlling many body activities. It stimulates muscle contraction, creates an awareness of environment, and plays a major role in emotions, memory, and reasoning. And then the location. Nervous tissue is located in brain, spinal cord, and nerve. Actually, nervous system is divided into two main parts, which is central nervous system and the other is peripheral nervous system. Brain and spinal cord is in the central nervous system and nerve is in the peripheral nervous system. And then we go to nervous tissue. Nervous tissue have neuron and neuroglia, or we can say is glia cell. Neuron is the main type of cell that makes up the nervous system, and it contains of dendrites, cell body, and an axon. Compared to glial cell is just surrounding the neuron and its non-neuronal cells in the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system that they don't produce any electrical impulse like neuron. And then we go to neuron. This is the structure of neuron. Each neuron, there are many branching where cytoplasmic extensions, which is axon, projecting in various directions to allow a neuron respond to stimuli and transmit electrical impulse in a very long distances. Next, this is I will explain more about the structure of neuron. This is the cell body. Cell body is the central part of neuron and it contains of nucleus, nucleolus and some organelles that we have learned that before. And then outside the cell body, it have dendrites. The function of dendrite is to receive incoming signals from another neuron or from external environment towards the cell body, and from cell body it will go to axon. This is the axon. Axon will transmitting impulse from cell body and it will generate electrical signals to another neurons or another an effector organ. Starting from axon hillock to axon terminal. Axon terminal will transmit the signals and it will release neurotransmitter. And then this is the myelin sheath. Myelin sheath is to protect axon. It will increases the speed at which impulses are transmitted, and actually myelin sheath is made of Schwann cell. This is the Schwann cell, meaning that it is a legend from axon to myelin sheath and from myelin sheath to Schwann cell. This is the knot of Ranvier. Knot of Ranvier is just a tiny gaps in between each Schwann cell. Next is neuroglia, or we call as glial cell. Glial cell is to maintain homeostasis, form myelin, and provide support and protection to neurons. Just like what I said before, glial cell is just around the neuron. It's because to give support and protection to neurons. And glial cell is in the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. In central nervous system, glial cells include oligodendrocytes, astrocytes, ependymal cells, and microglial cells. In peripheral nervous system, glial cells include Schwann cells and satellite cells. Next is there are four main functions of glial cell. First is supporting cells in the nervous system. It's surrounding the neuron and hold them in place. Second is to supply nutrients and oxygen to neurons. Third is to insulate one neuron from another. And the last is to destroy pathogens and remove dead neurons. That's all from me. Thank you.
Neurons, which is bring the question, what is neurons? Neurons are the cells that make up the brain and the nervous system. They are the fundamental units that sense and receive signals, which allow us to move our muscles, feel the external world, think, form memories, and much more. There are three types of neurons, such as sensory cells, motor neurons, and interneurons. Oh, sensory neurons, forgive me. Sensory neurons are the nerve cells that are activated by sensory input from the environment. For example, when you touch a hot surface such as hot kettle or candle with your fingertips, the sensory neurons will be the ones sending and firing and sending off signals to the nervous system. about the information they have received. That's the examples that can be found within it. And next, the inputs that activate sensory neurons can be physical or chemical, corresponding to the five of our senses, such as sound, touch, heat, light, taste, or smell. But uh, but a physical input can be found in sound, touch, heat, and or light, and the chemical input come from taste or smell, which neurons then send to the brain. Next, most sensory neurons are pseudo-unipolar, which means they only have one axon, which is split into two branches. Next, motor neurons. Motor neurons of the spinal cord are part of the central nervous system and connects to muscles, glands, and organs throughout the body. These neurons transmit impulse from the spinal cord to skeletal and smooth muscles, such as those in your stomach, and and so directly control all of our muscle movements. Okay, next. There are two types of motor neurons. Those that travel from spinal cord to muscle are called lower motor neurons, whereas those that travel between brain and spinal cord are called upper motor neurons. Motor neurons have the most common type of body plan for a nerve cell. They are multipolar, each with one axon and several dendrites. Next, interneurons. Interneurons are the ones in between. They connect spinal motor and sensory neurons, as well as transferring signals between sensory and motor neurons. Interneurons can also communicate with each other, which can be forming circuits of various complexity. They are multipolar just like motor neurons. Thank you.
Transmission of information across synapses. First, when an electrical impulse reaches the presynaptic membrane, it triggers the synaptic vesicle to release neurotransmitters into the synaptic cleft. Second, the neurotransmitters diffuse across the synaptic cleft and bind to specific proteins or receptors which are attached to the postsynaptic membrane. The binding of the neurotransmitters to the receptors leads to the generation of the new electrical signal. So, a nerve impulse is conducted along the axon of a neuron until it reaches the synaptic terminal. Beyond the synaptic terminal is a narrow space known as the synaptic cleft that separates the synaptic terminal from the dendrite of a receiving neuron, a muscle cell, or a gland cell. The synapse is the site where the two neurons or a neuron and an effector cell communicate. The electrical signals carrying a message must be transmitted across the synaptic cleft to an adjacent cell. A synaptic cleft is the space between the presynaptic membrane and the postsynaptic membrane. The transmission of nerve impulses across the synaptic cleft occurs via a chemical process. This process requires the action of certain chemical substances known as neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are stored in small synaptic vesicles clusters at the tip of a synaptic terminal. So the synaptic terminal contains abundant mitochondria to generate energy for the transmission of nerve impulses across the synapse. After the neurotransmitters has relayed its message, it is rapidly broken down by enzymes or taken up again by the synaptic terminal and recycled. This ensures that the effect of a neurotransmitter is brief and precise, facilitating the transmission of nerve impulses in one direction. A nerve impulse cannot go backward across a synapse. Synaptic vesicles are only present in the synaptic terminus. Only the presynaptic membrane can discharge these neurotransmitters. Receptors are only present as the postsynaptic membrane. This means that only postsynaptic membrane can receive a chemical signal.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Now I will present more detail about synaptic. First step, when the impulse arrives at synaptic knob, it will open calcium ion channel in the presynaptic membrane. So the calcium ion will flow in the form the synaptic cliff. Second, the calcium ion induce a few vesicles where it containing neurotransmitter to fuse with the presynaptic membrane. So the vesicle release their contents into the synaptic cliff. Third step, the neuron transmitter is diffused across the synaptic cliff, and it binds with a receptor protein on the postsynaptic membrane. So receptor protein you control a channel in the membrane, so it will open allow one or more type of ions such as sodium, potassium, chloride to pass through it. Step keempat, when the neuron transmitter bind to the receptor, it cause the sodium ion channel to open. So sodium ion will flow in. So kemasukan sodium ion tu menyebabkan dia polarize the postsynaptic membrane. Next, the neuron transmitter is removed from synaptic cliff by enzyme action. So this prevents continuous firing of impulse in the postsynaptic neuron. The last step, the choline and ethanoic acid then re-enter the presynaptic node and used to resynthesis the neurotransmitter which is stored in the vesicle to be reused.
Next, I will present to you how nervous tissue works. For your information, nervous tissue is a part of nervous system. The nervous system takes information through our sense, process information, and triggers action. When you touch something hot, it takes 2 seconds to respond. For an example, when you touch hot pan, your hand reflexively will pull. Because of the heat, your hand will get pain. This is the simple way to understand the process. When you touch hot plate, sensory neurons in our hand will sense the heat. The sensory neurons send nerve impulse to the brain through nerve cells by spinal cord, and the brain will process the information and send message. The nerve impulse will send a message to the hand to pull hand. So you can see this is this process takes 2 seconds and it's really simple. To understand in detail, you can see this diagram. So to sense we want to feel is the water is cold or hot. So you can see the blue color is sensory neuron, and when the sensor the water, it will send message or an impulse to the brain, and the brain will process. So you can see this is nerve cells, and this is my spinal cord, like I see. After the brain process, the brain will send information through the motor neuron, the red is mine, through spinal cord and the hand. So you look motor neuron, we will take action from what the brain process. So the conclusion for the tissue is it is possible for coordinating and controlling many body activities. It stimulates muscle contraction, creates an awareness of the environment, and plays a major role in emotion, memory, and reasoning. Nervous tissue are made of cells specialized to receive and transmit electrical impulse from specific areas of the body, and also to send them to specific locations in the body organized into structure called nerves. That's all from me. Thank you.